right, we're going to move from one inspiring story to another. I am joined by two very special expert gardeners here on Central Texas Gardener, Ian and Addison McKenna, and they have been doing great things with vegetable gardens, making sure that people have access to fresh vegetables. And this is a program that you started off. Tell me how you started this, Ian.
Yeah, so it mainly started because one day my sister came home and told me that there was a girl in her class who was upset because Santa never came to her and she never got a meal outside of school. And so I thought, well, I'm just a kid, so what can I do? And I realized, wait, if they need healthy food,
right?
And gardens can give you healthy food, and I like to garden.
Yeah.
So I decided to start gardening. And I didn't think it would be that big of a deal until I found out how many people that it affected.
Right,
So.
right. Well, you produce a lot of vegetables. I want to hear from Addison a little bit. Tell me why you felt compelled to share the story about your friend.
Well, I mean, she was a really good friend, and she was really upset, I could tell. Because she started crying.
Really?
And I knew immediately that something needed to be done about this.
Yeah. So
I told Ian.
So you shared the information, and she was only able to eat the meals served at school. So she
Which aren't really healthy.
Yeah.
Some of them can be, but not all of it.
Right, right. So you put your brains together here, and your efforts, and you've been doing this now for how long?
4 years.
4 years, about?
4 or 5.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. And
And
I understand you're producing hundreds of pounds of
Yes.
fresh produce.
So last year we had, just in one of the gardens, 869 pounds.
Wow. And you do a lot of this right in your own backyard,
Yes,
right?
in our backyard, that's where that amount came from. This
Yeah.
is my Katie's Crops garden.
Yeah, so this is something you do year-round.
Yes,
you have spring
year-round.
and fall gardening. And
Hunger never stops.
and hunger never stops, and apparently you two guys don't stop either,
Nope.
which is awesome. Now, there are a lot of people in our audience who are just like you, maybe a few years older, but they're interested in healthy eating and growing vegetables for their own families and friends. What would you say was the hardest thing you had to learn in order to be successful?
Well, there were a lot of things. Some of them were like when to plant it, or how deep, how far apart.
Right.
Really just,
The basics, yeah.
yeah.
And what was the hardest thing for you?
Well, I really don't know, but I would say maybe knowing I felt really bad knowing that some people didn't have meals.
Maybe the rocks in the soil.
Yeah.
The rocks everywhere you try to plant your trees.
Yeah.
Well, I understand that you had another hurdle to overcome, and that is you didn't really like vegetables, did you?
I used to only eat raw cauliflower, but then after a little bit of work, I just realized that I really like carrots, and I still only eat raw cauliflower.
Right.
But I also
Only
eat
cooked.
carrots, broccoli, sweet potatoes, mashed potatoes with butter and cheese.
Butter and cheese. I don't think you grow those in a garden, do you?
No, but it's just good.
Okay.
And lettuce.
All right.
And also lettuce.
So. Hey, you're on your way to being a vegetarian.
Not with bacon around, I don't think so.
So how do you distribute the food to the people who need it?
Yeah, so really, usually if we can, we give it directly to people in need. And if not, then we take it to the Central Texas Food Bank.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
they give it out. So,
Well, they help thousands and thousands
Yes.
of people. How does that make you feel when you know you're meeting such an important need?
well, sometimes like when you give it to them in person, it's just like the expression and the reactions. It's always like they're like crying, or like sometimes you might think, did I do something wrong? And then you realize that they're just crying out of tears of joy.
Oh, that's
And
sweet.
it really makes you think,
Yeah.
wow, if this is how it makes you feel, you want to do more.
Yeah. And you're how old are you? 9 years old?
10.
10. So you're getting a head start on this whole gardening thing. Are you going to be a lifelong gardener?
Maybe.
Maybe.
I might do some gardening.
Okay. Okay. Well, you're going to be a lifelong mermaid, apparently.
If she's not a mermaid, she'll be a gardener.
Okay, mermaid or gardener, either one. Those are perfectly acceptable careers. I think so. So, for those folks out there who are interested in learning more about gardening, you have all around us a whole
Yep.
bunch of your produce: onions, squash,
cucumbers,
tomatoes.
squash.
Yeah. Now let's talk about everybody loves to grow tomatoes. That's one of my favorite things. What's the hardest thing about growing a tomato?
Well, there's many different things. Sometimes it can be pests.
Yeah.
That's one of the big things. Also, really just like telling, is it ready? And I
Yeah.
found it starts to change color, pick it, and you can put it in a brown bag, and then it will still ripen.
Right. And that protects it
also-
from the squirrels and all the
Well,
critters,
yeah,
right?
Protects it from being eaten by
Yeah.
like the critters.
Yeah.
And also another thing, the heat. And also you have to tend to them, because if you don't do it long enough, then like between a branch and like two branches, they could be a little sprout. You get those, or else
Yeah.
sometimes that first branch that came out will go.
Yeah. Right.
It can die. So
So we were talking. What's the thing in the garden that you least like to do?
Probably weeding, but it has to be done for the plants to grow.
Right. Boy, you sound very determined about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wish more gardeners felt that same way. Every time I talk to people about weeding, they all they roll their
Yeah,
eyes.
I don't like to
Don't make
weed.
me weed.
I know,
like
I
to
don't-
weed, but
We don't
Has
like
to be
it,
done.
but
has to.
we have to do it.
Yeah, that's a good attitude. That's a great attitude. So we're talking here. It's getting close to the middle of the summer. What do you do when it gets so hot?
Well, always depends. Sometimes if we can, we'll try to like cover them if possible. Always want to water them
Right.
like early. Always water them earlier because of the heat. It can burn the plants.
Right, and just evaporate too.
Yeah, like if the water gets on the leaves,
Transpiration.
if you put the waters on the leaves,
Transpiration. Give me a high five for that.
I learned that in science.
That's awesome.
yeah. But so if you water the leaves, or like even water just like the roots, if it's hot enough, then it will immediately evaporate, and that can actually burn the leaves and the
Right,
stems. and
right.
roots, so.
It's like putting a magnifying glass on the leaves if you
Yeah,
leave
'cause the
water,
water
droplets.
droplets, yeah.
People don't think
Also,
about
the
that.
water could maybe even like when it's heating up, if it starts to like kind of, I'm saying this not really like boil though.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really boil, but it can get like that and like bubble the stems and
right,
that stuff and hurt it really bad.
So, are you going to go into farming after this? I'm just curious.
I'm not sure.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
You'll be a lifelong gardener. I'll bet you will be.
Yeah.
That's the favorite mermaid activity, by the way.
Seaweed gardening.
We work no matter what, rain or shine. We
All right.
always work.
Right.
That's
Well, you produce some beautiful produce, but you also have herbs,
yeah.
right? And how do you distribute those the same way?
well, sometimes we'll distribute them like that, but sometimes we'll host like dinners, like Katie's Traps dinners, and we'll
sweet.
use herbs in our cooking. So.
Well, you need to keep people involved in your efforts, and so if you host dinners, then more people can learn and more people can help.
Yeah, the dinners like it's mainly like an outreach. So people, if they can't afford hot, healthy, fresh meal,
Right?
we'll get it to them if they can make it.
Right. Well, I am blown away by what you guys are doing. Do you have other kids who are joining in the effort?
Well, with Katie's Crops, it's a nonprofit, a national national nonprofit,
Okay, cool.
and they empower youth to grow
Okay.
gardens.
Cool. Well, I
And-
hope more people will learn about Katie's Crop.
Yeah.
And we have loved learning about your great efforts on behalf of a lot of people out there in need. So thank you so much for being on Central Texas Gardener. Coming up next, it's Daphne.